Ready? Okay. Okay. All right. I call this meeting to order. This is the City of Hendersonville Capital Projects Committee. This committee is made up of the chairman of the major committees of BOMA, and it's January the 24th at 4 o'clock. This meeting has been duly noticed. Correct, staff? Correct. And we have an agenda. First of all, before we do, I would like to go around and ask members of the committee to introduce themselves, and then any alderman that's in the audience, if they would introduce themselves as well for the record. So, Chairman Goodwin.
Terry Goodwin, Alderman, Ward 4.
Karen Dixon, Alderman, Ward 4.
And I'm Eddie Robertson, Ward 6.
Lee Peterson, Alderman, Ward 2.
Jeff Sassy, Alderman, Ward 3.
Okay, Jeff Sassy, Alderman, Ward 3, if no one heard him, okay. We have several staff with us today, and we're going to jump right into the agenda. First of all, you have an agenda that you're looking at. If you don't have an agenda, we have extra. So I'd like to have a motion on the agenda or any amendments that would be made, and I do have one minor amendment. So are there any amendments that would need to be made? I would like to amend the agenda under other items to characterize one of the things that I would like for us to discuss is the mayor to give a report on the legislative consultant that we've hired. And so, Mayor, are you okay with giving that report? Okay. And with that, I move to make that amendment. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second. Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. All right, we have an amended agenda. Now we need to accept the agenda. Do I have a motion to accept the amended agenda?
I'll make a motion to accept the amended
Second.
agenda.
I have a motion and a second. All those, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Next, we have some minutes that you've been provided. I have reviewed them, and they look accurate to me and correct. Are there any discussions on those minutes? If not, I'll entertain a motion on those minutes. This is the June 23rd meeting, 2023, that the last Capital Projects Committee meeting minutes.
I move that we accept the minutes.
Thank you. I have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And it carries unanimously. Next is citizens' comments. Do we have anyone that would like to address the Capital Projects Committee under citizens' comments? And I see none, so we will move right on into the action items. And Sarah, I'm going to turn this over to you. First of all, I want to say, you hear this all the time, but thank you for your hard work. Thank you for your staff's hard work. I see Stephen in the audience, and we really appreciate what Public Works has done in putting this together and all your efforts. I get a glimpse every once in a while of the headaches that you go through in dealing with the state. And but your hair hadn't turned gray yet, so you're hanging in there.
It's starting.
Okay.
No, thank you, Chairman.
Okay.
So we'll just go ahead and get started and
Yes,
go through the
please.
agenda. We have some slides prepared.
Thank you.
Similar to the format we've looked at previously. Now does not seem to be operating. There we go. Okay, this is just our agenda. We'll start with Exit 8. I think many of you have heard the good news that the state has put some funding in place for us for construction for this project in their 10-year plan. So they have listed it at $35.5 million. Currently, this may change. There hasn't been a lot of clarity into this yet since their 10-year plan is very new. But it is possible that the city's portion would be that $4.9 million that we have in the budget this year. So it may change, but if that remains, then that would be, of course, an excellent excellent situation for the city. A lot of this information is the same. We are still in right-of-way. This is still a city project. We estimate a bid letting date of 2025. In the plan, the 10-year plan that TDOT put out, they have it listed as 2027. Now, when they put that plan out, they were very clear that they are extremely motivated to move these projects through construction as quickly as possible to beat inflation where they can. So if we get there in 2025 or 2026, I feel pretty confident that the state will obligate those funds at that time to get us to construction, when we're ready to be there. So I thought that was good news. Again, our estimated groundbreaking would be 2025, and we would anticipate at least a 3-year construction timeline for a project of this magnitude. Does anyone have any questions at this time for that?
I do. So are there any milestones that we have to meet before the state will obligate the money?
That's not very clear yet. This 10-year plan that they've put out is funded a little bit differently than our normal federally funded local programs projects. I don't know exactly what, I anticipate the project delivery would be very similar, but I'm not positive if there will be any additional or if they will remove steps. Usually with these projects, pretty much every step of the way, we have to go back to TDOT for review, concurrence. Since we are in right-of-way, once we get appraisals, those will have to be sent to TDOT for review and approval. Then we will go through the process of making offers and negotiations. TDOT will have to approve all of that. Then at the point where we're ready to move forward, toward construction, we'll have to go through the process of not only having their approval on all of the steps thus far, but then also requesting obligation of funds for construction with a notice to proceed to that phase and then go through their bidding process. So there are multiple steps along the way where we rely heavily on TDOT's review and response to move forward.
So what was the last estimate of construction cost for this project?
For 2024, it had it roughly $30 million.
Okay.
So I'm thinking, I don't remember right off the top of my head, but I'm thinking in 2025, it had it roughly $32 million.
Okay, so they've built in, it looks like a little extra for projected overrun, higher than expected
Hopefully.
estimates.
Yes.
Okay. And I want to announce too that we have Alderman Jenna Garton. She's in the audience as well, and she represents Ward 5, which is this is affected. Are there any other questions? I have another question. Have we ever done a project this magnitude in the city of Hendersonville?
Not that I've been involved with, no. Not that I'm aware of.
And from a management standpoint, and this may be a question for both you and Jesse, how are we going to manage a project this huge? I mean, can we do it with existing staff?
With TDOT local programs projects, they're different. They scale projects, and they require, on like our Sanders Ferry Greenway, for example, they required a construction engineering inspector for project oversight management to be on site every day, and that same would apply to this project.
Did we have to pay for that?
Yes, it's part of the construction estimate. Yes. So we would have additional resources managing this project for daily operations.
I do have a question, Eddie.
Let's see. Right now, that's all that I have. So,
I have a question.
yes. Alderman
A
Dixon.
remark. We have money in the budget for this year, and I know we need to purchase some land, correct?
Yes.
Can we move on that to save ourselves some inflation expenses? Do the
Ye-
land purchase?
Yes, we are working through that process.
Okay.
The consultant was to be staking by the end of January. With the weather we've had, that might shift a little bit, but they would stake, and then their subconsultant would then begin the process of appraisals.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah.
Committee members, any other questions?
Do. I'd like to follow up with Karen's question. Right-of-way and property acquisition, that's part of our 4.9 million, is that correct?
That's right.
Okay. Do you anticipate seeing that city portion changing? I mean, increasing?
That's possible. Yes. Once the appraisals come in, we'll have a better idea of what we need for this year to cover right-of-way expenditures or next fiscal year. So it is possible that that could increase.
Okay. Do we kind of have a ballpark when we might be getting those?
6 months, probably.
Okay. I have one more question. This project begins in '25, is that correct?
It's an estimate.
What's the chances that this project will coincide with the widening of Vietnam veterans?
I don't think that they have the design completed for that
Okay.
project yet, so I would say it's unlikely.
Oh.
But that's a consideration.
That's great. It would probably be a traffic nightmare if both projects happened at the same time, so I just
Yeah.
wanted to ask that question. Sarah?
I might be able to help a little bit.
Yes.
Vietnam Veterans Boulevard is Vietnam Veterans Boulevard in the Hendersonville section is phase one of that, and the Hendersonville Davidson County is phase one, and that's in 4 parts. And the first part they'll work on will be the bridge at close to Rivergate. So it's very unlikely. The 4th section is this section close to Saundersville Road. So it's very unlikely they would conflict.
Okay.
I should say
Thank-
coincide.
Thank you, Mayor.
So who is in charge of this project?
The city.
The city.
This is a city
Okay.
project.
So the issues we've had with TDOT and on light synchronization since, on Walton Ferry, straightening Walton Ferry and New Shackle, since they're in charge of that project, we're in charge of this one.
We are, but we still have to comply with their process. So they're closely related.
All kind of environmental studies, I'm sure, too, and everything
Yes.
will have to be done. But we do have a design, don't we? We're ahead on that.
Yes.
We have a preliminary design?
That's right. Yes. They'll finalize the design once all of the right-of-way acquisitions are complete.
So is that on here, the final design? That would be before the bid letting, wouldn't it?
Yes. Yeah. It's completed as part of the right-of-way phase.
Okay.
That's when they finalize it.
So that cost was put in the 4.9.
That's right.
Okay, estimated cost. Any other questions from the committee? Alderman Sassy, I saw you had your hand up. Question? No? Alderman Garton? Well, this is a big deal for the city, and we're anxious to see the movement on that process. So, okay, light sync. Yeah,
I did.
Yeah.
I apologize
it's all right.
for, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, sorry. I apologize for coming, the traffic was horrible coming in from Nashville, so I got here as quick. I know, 20 lashes with a whip. I do want to say that, sort of eating crow here, I'm glad the project got the funding. I said that I obviously will, support that. I did, or I will, and I'm happy about it. But I do have a couple of questions, and I'm really sorry that I got on the very end of this. So if I ask you some things about it that you've already discussed it, just tell me, Chairman, that you've already discussed it, and I'll get with you at a later date or some other time, tomorrow. Well, I don't know if tomorrow, but sometime between now and next week.
Okay.
I was noticing that our bid letting is next year. The estimated groundbreaking is 2025. Is that including all the going through right-of-way acquisition. That will possibly, there's some of the properties may or may not go to court, and they're going to take care of that in a year?
It's an estimate. We don't ever know how long the right-of-way process will take,
Yeah,
to be
because I was
honest.
trying to think of all the courts I've gone through. It's going to take more than a year to get it done, I'll tell you. So I don't want, I don't want to cast a false light on that, and I don't want to be the dark cloud in the room, but I just want to let people know that realistically speaking on this. And the estimation of completing the tunnel is in 3 years? Is that correct? It says right here?
Yes, it's estimated as a 3-year construction timeline.
That's not going to happen, people. No, I hope it is, and I'm going to close with this because when we give a report at the board, I guess, I'm just really sad that I could not get here. And, I know I'm about 15 minutes late, and there was nothing I could do about it. And then I think someone said, and then I'll close with this, because I don't want to, we've got a lot to do tonight, or this afternoon. The city is going to do all the construction, or what was that? The costs are going to handle that. Is that right?
The city owns the project. This is a city-managed project. We would, same as a lot of our other projects, we would put the project out to bid for construction, and a contractor would construct, and we would also, through the local programs process, select a construction engineering inspection firm to kind of oversee the day-to-day construction operations.
Okay, this is not the time to make this motion, but I will in the future make it. I want an accounting of every dime, penny, centavo, whatever it is that is paid for this, down to the hammer and nail of what we did, because there's been countless fiascos, and I'm not going to get into tonight, with some of the times and I'm not saying that it's the city's fault, because a lot of those people that I had issues with are gone from here now and live in other states in the United States, and I'll just leave it at that. And it wasn't all the city. Again, it wasn't all the city's fault, but some of the construction that we had, it just didn't, the financial aspect of it versus the construction aspect of it did not make sense to me. And it didn't, honestly, I would say that Board of Aldermen that was involved in it at that time, it did not make sense to them either. And there was a big hoodoo about it. In fact, I think I had just come back on the Board of Aldermen at that time when all that started happening. So I want to make sure that we have a proper accounting on any kind of exchange orders or anything that we're doing, because it's important, because obviously this is going to be state taxpayers' money, and but regardless it's taxpayers' money, we want to make sure that the money is there and that it's spent right, because that is so important. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Alderman Skidmore. Sarah, wording means a lot. This really is not a tunnel, is it? Isn't it more like an underpass?
Yes. Yes, that's correct.
When I think of a tunnel, I'm from Chattanooga, I think of the Missionary Ridge Tunnel that's, a quarter of a mile long under the mountain. But this is really an underpass.
Yes.
Under the railroad.
Yes.
And we're going to have to work closely with the railroad company, right?
Yes, we do.
Yes. And prayers for you with that. So,
Thank you.
Okay. If there are no other questions on Exit 8, underpass, let's move on to signal synchronization.
Okay. Sorry, this clicker's giving me a hard time this evening. He'll progress it for me. For phase one, we have substantially completed that project. We have,
You have it on here.
he's working on advancing
Oh.
the slide. The clicker's not. We tried it before and made sure everything was working, and now nothing's working.
JP, can you switch that to the, working on it? Okay. All right, go ahead.
But since phase one is essentially complete, I actually didn't include the slide for the phase one. I included the slide for the phase two. But we have the final testing for the fiber scheduled for January 30th. It was originally scheduled for earlier, but with the weather, and we just pushed it to the 30th. So everything is installed so far. Everything seems to be in order. IT has commented that the sub-consultant that did the fiber work and the testing has been really good to work with, and they thought it was a really good project. So it's all been very positive.
So is the fiber, the interconnection between the lights, the only function of the fiber at this point?
Yes.
That's the only
That's
use
right.
that the city has at this point for it?
Yes,
Okay.
that's right. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So that project is essentially wrapped up. We did not have any other additional change orders other than there was one small at the beginning. I think it was like $3,300 to powder coat 2 of the poles.
Here it is, maybe.
So here is the phase 2 slide. This one, the estimate has not been updated. They are working through, we're trying to get notice to proceed to design now. We have completed NEPA and preliminary. We are waiting on an obligation from the state for the funding, and then the notice to proceed to design. And then once they refine the design, they will provide an updated estimate. So I would expect that probably to increase. Probably 20% at least is what we've seen, of course, on a lot of our projects, 20 to 30.
So we're not going to ground break until 25?
Not at the rate we're going right now. The design is essentially, I mean, it's mostly complete, but we do have several steps within that design phase. And then we have to receive a notice to proceed to right-of-way. Even though there's no right-of-way or easement associated with this project, we are completely within state right or city right-of-way or easement currently, so we're not needing to obtain anything. But you still have to get a notice to proceed to that phase to get a certification of the right-of-way, that none is needed. And then you request obligation for construction and notice to proceed.
So you're estimating completion 26? That's terrible, terrible. Are our hands tied?
You want me to take it?
Sure.
Every time I talk or hear about this, I have to hold back my feelings about TDOT. Because at the same time that I am incredibly frustrated and pretty angry about this, I have to remind myself that they've just pledged $35 million to us. You've been copying some of my emails.
I know.
My tone has probably come across on email. And when we talk later on in the meeting, I'm going to fill you in some of the work our lobbyist is doing, and he has taken on some of this as well. What it comes down to in a lot of situations is TDOT is short-staffed, and TDOT is not set up to actually see projects through completion at this time. TDOT in projects like this, and Sarah's not saying this, I am saying that. TDOT in projects like this is set up for completion of incremental aspects of large projects. Fortunately, Governor Lee has said they need to have project managers for projects like this. I completely agree, but they're not there, and it's obvious they're not there.
So has Gallatin completed their project on light synchronization?
I think they've completed essentially phase one. They don't have near as many roads as we do. Sarah, you might know the answer to that one.
I'm sorry, I don't.
Yeah.
I've just seen stuff on
yeah.
social media that they've already got theirs done. And I just, again, that's social
Yeah.
media.
Yeah, I've
So-
talked to Mayor Brown about this many, many times, and they're having similar situations as did Portland.
So what are our options in trying to move this up forward quicker? Political? Is that what we're left with,
Probably.
political?
And I mean, it's me and Sarah continuing to, Sarah can continue to communicate and me continuing to badger individual
Good guy.
employees. I mean, that's sort of where we've become, what it's become, is badger employees who said they were gonna send an email on Friday, and when it comes to Monday and we don't see evidence of that email, of going back to them and say, what happened to this email? I have, and to some extent Sarah has, become supervisors of individual employees at TDOT. It's not Sarah's place to do that, but I'm sort of willing to stick my neck out there. She should not.
Hypothetically, and don't fall out of your chairs, if we decided to pay for this ourselves and give the state the thumb, could it move quicker if we paid for it ourselves?
Absolutely. Yes.
How much quicker?
We could have design complete probably in 2 months and put it to bid to open probably 2 months after that.
So TDOT still couldn't delay it because it's a state, because some of these roads are state roads if we pay for it ourselves?
No, they don't manage the traffic signals.
So if our citizens vote for the sales tax bump, we possibly could have enough money to push this along and finish it this year instead of 2 years from now.
The construction timeline might still be a year, but yes, it would expedite the project.
Something to think about. You know, I get a lot of complaints on this. I don't know if y'all do, but I get complaints all the time. When are you going to do something to try to fix the traffic lights, that they flow better? So, Mr. Alderman Peterson.
Yes, thank you. I'm certainly open to the city paying for this and moving it forward. Will that mean that TDOT will reimburse us even if we pay for it ourselves?
No, we already pay for it ourselves and then seek reimbursement, but TDOT would have no further assistance in this project, and we would owe TDOT back for the design portion of the funds that have already been expended.
How much is that?
Probably 200,000, I would guess.
I don't know. I'm just frustrated with it, and I know how hard the mayor and Sarah have worked. I've been copied on some of the emails, and they have done their best. But this is bad news on this project. Bad news. Any other questions or comments? Okay.
What is the total the city would have to spend if we abandon TDOT and do it ourselves? What is the estimated cost to the city?
The construction estimate is the 2.2 million. I believe the design was roughly 200,000 for the consultant fees. So that's a known right now. But then if we put it out to bid and it were 3 million, we would be responsible for that total.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And the sales tax estimate, Jamie, the staff has predicted $9 million
$9 million per
per
year.
year. Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you. No further questions from the alderman in the, okay. Next is the roundabout.
Okay. This project, the estimate is roughly 3.2 million. That was an increase from the original estimate of 2.7 million. The city's portion of this project, with the ARPA funding, would be 947,000 roughly. So there are currently no cost overruns. We are in right-of-way. This is a city project. To date, this has been 100% funded by the city through the developer fees from Durham Farms for the per lot fees. But the construction phase was awarded through the ARPA funding, and that's roughly a 35% portion for the city. We are in right-of-way. We have run into a couple of back and forth discussions and issues in right-of-way. Our city attorney is in the process of communicating with 1 to 2 of the property owners. We do have one signed offer agreement, so we will be moving forward with closing on that parcel. And I would anticipate the rest would come to an agreement after that, but we are working through some issues.
So we need 3 and we have 1.
There are a total of 5 individual property owners.
And we have 1.
We have 1.
Okay? Any
And-
questions?
I'm sorry, I'll just mention this project. The funding source is through ARPA, so it must be complete by the September of 2026. So we are on a time situation with this project.
Okay. Next.
Drakes Creek and Stop 30 intersection. The current estimate for this project is a little over $7 million. That does include the design. Our portion is $1.4 million. This project has an 80-20 split. We are in right-of-way. They are currently working through the appraisals. They have all but 2 complete currently. So we'll be expecting those pretty shortly, and then they'll have to go through the process of a review and submittal to TDOT for their review as well before we move forward with making offers and negotiations. We've had an estimated bid letting on this project for the end of this year. If those negotiations are successful, that is possible. Again, if there are issues that arise, that would push the schedule. And this project has roughly a 2-year construction timeline.
Questions? The estimate that was done, when was that done?
It was the end of 2022 is when they updated that estimate, I believe.
Based upon our experience with the cost of projects, do you anticipate that that's going to go up?
Yes, I do. The magnitude, I'm not certain. but
We have funded 1.4 million of that, the city portion. Has that been funded?
It is funded in the budget in case we went to construction this year.
So when will these estimates be updated? When the bid comes back?
No, they'll update the estimate once they finalize the negotiations and all offers are accepted, and they'll finalize the design plans. At that time, they'll update the estimate, and before we put it out to bid.
Okay. Questions?
Yes, thank you. Sarah, last night, Stop 30 was mentioned at Main Street that might be impacted by the Trinity development. Is that something that the developer would be paying for that portion of Stop 30, or would that be on the city? I'm just bringing that up because we're talking about the Stop 30. I know it's on the other end, but I wasn't aware that there might be, Stop 30 would need to be widened at Main Street. It
would be the developer. If it were an impact caused by the development, then it would be developer-funded improvement. I would have to look into that to confirm. I'm not familiar with that impact, but if it's based on that development, then it would be the developer's responsibility.
Okay, but that wouldn't affect this project, the Drakes Creek Stop 30 intersection?
No, sir, it should not.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
So of the right-of-way acquisition, how many property owners are involved in this one? And how many do we have agreements so far?
We have no agreements. Right now, we're waiting on the appraisals, which are nearly complete. I believe there are 12 property owners for this project.
Is this where we were the last time we met in June, the same place? Has there been any progress on this project?
Yes, we were not at appraisals previously. I believe when last we met, we were at staking which that's kind of like the early phase. And then we've had several iterations of meetings with the sub-consultant that's doing the appraisals. This process has coincided with the Stop 30 plan, land use plan. And so there were a lot of discussions and concerns over the best use for the properties as part of this project. So we were working through some of those issues.
I'd like for the staff, and maybe at the next meeting, Capital Projects Committee, we can discuss. It seems like to me that there is a real slowdown of action once we get in the right-of-way, the property acquisition. Maybe that's because people don't want to sell their property, you know. But I would like for the staff to brainstorm on some ways that we can improve that process. There may not be, but I'd like for the staff to brainstorm to see, you know, can we do something different? What are some best practices that maybe are being done in other jurisdictions to try to speed up the property acquisition phase of these projects? Okay?
Okay.
Okay. All right. Next item.
So we have Walton Ferry Old Shackle realignment. Current estimate for this project is $16.5 million. That was recently updated by TDOT. I want to say maybe June of 2023 is when they updated that. Our portion would be the 20%, which we've paid probably 98% of now. So we've really already given them our share. So currently no cost overruns. We are in right-of-way. The last we spoke to TDOT, they were down to just 4 open parcels, which is truly amazing. I didn't know we were going to get there. I think a year ago they still had 19 open. One of those is toward the end of condemnation. One of them was in closing, and then the other 2 they were still kind of working through. Jesse and I went to Region 3 and met with them. They had their entire team for this project. And we discussed, they currently have this project listed for a June 2024 letting. And they felt pretty confident that it was going to go in June 2024. They discussed, I can't remember now the terminology for it, but basically it's in the best interest of the public to move this project forward with only just a couple parcels outstanding. So if they're not closed by that time, that they still intended to move the project forward to letting. So we've been in close communications with them. We are working on the messaging for us to put out to the public. This is a state-managed project, but we're going to have a lot of messaging available for residents so we can hopefully help them understand what to expect, especially as it relates to traffic handling, things like that. And they did confirm that this would be at least a 3-year construction timeline on this project. The first 6 to 9 months will be utility relocations, and then after that, the main construction portion would begin.
Questions? How long has this project been going on? Alderman Skidmore might have to answer that question.
2004, I guess, I think it was the date that the board officially initiated the project. So it's been about 20 years.
Okay.
Even before
Push
then.
the button.
I'm sorry, it's the initiative date that the board at that time that we did. God, I'm starting to show my age. Wow. Those were some good times too, I will say that. We started in 2004 as a city collectively, so it's been about 24 years that this has been an ongoing project. But thank you for asking me that. But I will say, I encourage everyone on this committee to get a paper a copy of all the projects we've got going on. But pay close attention to your initiation date on your paperwork, because it's going to show you how long some of these projects have taken. So when you get I'm very realistic when it comes I'm very truthful about this because I don't want people that are either an election year or, I mean, I've been here long enough to know this to the aldermen. Don't go out there and campaign and say, hey, we're going to have this done in 3 years. I'm living testimony. I've said that stuff in past elections, and I was dead wrong. And so I've had people come to me and said, yeah, you were going to have this done in 2007. And I'm going like, yeah, you know, and you got to eat crow, you know, because that's the truth. So what I would encourage or challenge you to look at your initiation dates, like say, for example, the one that there's been more contention or being contentious about it, Exit 8. When it says your initiation date, you better look at it and say, it's going to be a little longer because I was looking at some of the dates, but since I was late, I did not feel comfortable enough just to come in and start advocating some other ideas. But I know when Capital Projects Committee does their report next month at the board, I'm sure there'll be a lot of questions about it because it's a serious issue. And that kind of money, 30 some odd $1 million, you know, we're not getting until 3 or 4 years from now. That kind of is going to raise some issues. But anyway, I don't want to get onto that because it's my fault that I came late, and I hate that that I did that. But I would, and again, I would look at your initiation date. But it's been about 20-something some odd years that Walton Ferry, Old Shackle Island, and Gallatin Road, that whole design has been on the books.
Yeah, it's been 10 years, and I think the last time a government met its projected project was when John Kennedy promised to land on the moon
Probably.
before 1970, and it actually happened. So I understand. Will there? Are you finished?
Yes, sir.
Will there be any additional improvements that the city will need to make to Walton Ferry, Old Shackle when this is done? In other words, will we need to extend Walton Ferry 3 lanes or 4 lanes to a certain point? Are there any additional improvements that need to be made?
I wouldn't anticipate any for at least the next decade. I don't know
Okay.
what the projected timeline was for the design, but it does add capacity. So I think that we'll be in good shape.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Next item? Oh, no, Alderman Peterson.
Mr. Chairman, we have a very lengthy list. Is there any urgency that we need to get these done in 3 years with the current administration? And I'm talking about the state level, not the city.
You want me to talk about that when we get to the last item on the agenda?
Yeah, that would be good. I would like to have that addressed. And one other thing, we keep talking about right-of-ways, and Sarah, these projects are eating our lunch. I know with some of the projects I do, we tell homeowners that they can donate their property. Are we discussing that with these property owners for the right-of-way to donate it to the city?
It's part of the right-of-way brochure, so it is part of the presentation. They are informed that they can donate, but many property owners want more money than we're offering. Most are not
That's a shame,
agreeable to
because
that.
then we got to pay for an additional appraisal, and then don't we also have to pay for a second appraisal to make sure the first appraisal was accurate? On
I'm
top
not
of the-
aware of that.
Yes,
We do that.
gets,
Yeah.
that eats up your
He's
whole
right.
budget right there, just about. Not the whole budget, but a major percentage of it is unnecessary.
You're right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, Drakes Creek, Long Hollow.
Yes, the new traffic signal.
That's the road going through Durham
Yes.
all the way to Long Hollow.
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct. Which, the construction of the roadway is complete.
Okay.
We're working through punch list items with the developer now. They're wanting to go through street acceptance for that. The traffic signal, the bid came in at $325,000. So that is our portion. It's all locally funded, but it is funded through the Durham Farms per lot fees.
Impact fees.
That's right.
Okay.
We are in the construction phase, but there is a lead time for the materials, which actually was much less for this project than we've seen in the past. Those are expected to ship the second week of March.
Okay.
So we would anticipate this project wrapping up right around the end of March. They've done a lot of the underground work already.
Good. Good. Okay. Next.
Sanders Ferry Greenway is also substantially complete. We are working through some punch list items with the contractor, and then we will. Casey and I have been talking about an opening date for the Greenway. But once this project is complete, as discussed in Public Works Committee, we will separately be coordinating with the contractor for information on the feasibility of revising the 400-foot of handrail that is above the roadway elevation. But this project is nearing completion. They did have some justified weather delays in the lake elevation, things like that, but we're at the finish line.
This, the walkway was brought up in Public Works.
Yes, yes,
And
correct.
say again what we're going to do. We've had complaints, I'm sure y'all are aware, that the current construction blocks the lake. You know, city
Yes.
by the lake. You know?
Yes.
So say again what we're going to do on that.
We're going to go back to the contractor. The boardwalks were design built, so they designed them, submitted those, and then constructed. And so those horizontal members, which are a significant issue with seeing the lake, we're going to ask them to evaluate the structure, because those members do all tie in to the boardwalk structure. And so have them evaluate the feasibility of removing those horizontal members and using cable through that section instead.
Good.
So
The state uses a lot of that cable. Alderman Sassy, you have a question?
Yeah, I was wondering how much did that increase the cost?
it would be a separate city-funded project. We don't have that cost yet. We would have to work with the contractor to ascertain that.
So that will go back to Public Works. And Public Works will move on
Yes.
that.
Yes, yes, sir.
Whether to recommend it to BOMA to fund or not. So it'll be a.
Yeah, if I may, just a quick comment. I feel that there's, I know that Alderman Goodwin and myself have, and I know everybody else has had comments on that throughout the whole city. And I feel comfortable in saying that the Public Works Committee is all for getting it's the same type of wire, and I know everybody's been, like to all our state parks, that you go to your state park and you see those wire on the bridges that go across when you're doing your walk on the lake or on the water side or on a creek, and you see those things. It's like that is what we're looking for, the wire, because it's very thick and substantial. The only thing is you got to be very careful when you're going to be driving down Saunders Ferry Road. So I know we're supposed to pay attention to looking on the road, but you're going to really be able to see the lake. And it's not like, it won't be like what you see now. I mean, it'll just be like it was not there. You might see the little rope go. Oops, excuse me. You might see the rope go, but that's it. Thank you.
Alderman Dixon?
Yeah, I had seen somewhere pictures of the option to use plexiglass. Do we move away from that due to cost, or is it not feasible with the current build?
Yeah, we evaluated several options at Public Works Committee, and some of those options were much more expensive. And then also the maintenance for an option like that with fingerprints and things like that, that would be a little bit more of an issue to maintain. And then also discoloration potentially for plexiglass. Of course, we use glass. We wouldn't have that, but it's much more expensive.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you. Good report. All right, next.
Fire Station 7, we are nearing completion on this as well. I have Steven here with us tonight. He's been managing this project, and he's done an excellent job working through issues that have come up. There have been a few change orders, so we have had cost overruns at approximately $79,000. Those have been vetted, each one. He's done an excellent job, as well as Wold, who's been working as the architect on the project. We do expect completion, I would say, within early February. They are substantially complete, but there are some outstanding items inside with the flooring, things like that, that they're working to finish up. And he is available for any questions that you might have for any of those details.
Questions? The cost overrun, $79,000. Was that covered in the, what do you call it, a contingency? Contingency fee? Or-
Most of it was. There was a portion where we did the contingency. Some of it was included in the project contingency at the
Yes.
inception of the project, but then there was a portion where we had to do contingency funds from our regular budget.
And you know how much that was, that latter amount? And will you have to come back to Budget Committee to get an appropriation for that?
No, that latter amount was not, it was not sizable. Most of it came from the project contingency.
Okay, very good. Questions? Station 7, and I'm sure Mayor will have a big opening when that happens, a dedication of that, yeah, looking forward. Next is the grant. This is our parks, right?
That's correct.
Okay, Director Gilly, give us the good news. I think we've got the money, don't we? Or it's in the mail?
The money is there. We've appropriated the money. The state gave us extra money, and some of our local sports groups are donating money. So where you see original estimate of 1 million and the current estimate 1.315, we have more than enough.
Remind us again what these.
We are
items are.
building a turf soccer field on Soccer Field 4 at Drakes Creek Park.
Okay.
Also completing the LED lights. That was half lit with LED lights. We will fully light the rugby field number 1 at the rugby complex, and we will have ADA parking improvements as well as ADA spectator improvements at both soccer fields and at rugby.
Will they be fully compliant, ADA?
Yes, we'll
Okay.
be in good shape. That is what the LPRF, one huge thing that they require with these projects and our sticklers on, from sidewalks to parking spots.
And the completion is June 24?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We're in great shape. Had it not rained and snowed, we'd probably almost be done with the turf soccer field right now, honestly.
It's interesting, though, when we talk about inflation, the effects of inflation on the budget. We estimated $1 million, and it came in actually 1.3.
Yeah.
So $300,000, even though the state helped us, that does show the effect of inflation.
And luckily, the state recognized that also and gave us half of that extra.
Yeah.
Basically, so that was kind of a huge deal, and they even, to the point where this next round of LPRF funding that they're about to open up, they're so concerned about inflation costs that they've taken away the max cap that you can ask for. Like they want people to basically make sure you overestimate your projects going forward in what you request for them to match. So I thought that was interesting.
Good. Questions on the grant? Good work on that.
I
Yes,
have one.
Alderman Peterson.
This doesn't pertain to this grant, and I probably should have put it on other items, but I wanted to just ask about the maintenance shed. Is that something I can bring up now while we've got Mr. Gilly on the mic?
You want to, we've talked about that in Public Works.
I don't know
Yeah.
if this is the proper time to bring it up, but, you know, there's some issues with the
Yes.
current building
Yes.
needing repairs. I just, you know, from my perspective, and I'm also, will disclose, I'm the liaison for Parks and Rec. But I think there's some health issues with mold, I believe, and because the building has been underwater. I just don't think that we need to spend money on a building that has issues. You know, but I don't know what the alternatives are for moving that or I saw a cost estimate last night for, I think, 5.8, 5.9 for a new building.
We truly don't know until we have construction documents. If we were to relocate it, it could be anywhere from 300,000 to $1 million. The high number comes in where, like I said, in Public Works, a lot of that's going to be determined by what we're required to do and what type of building we're required to put up in our own park.
Okay. Have we had to replace a city building in the recent past?
Yes, at the golf course.
Oh,
'Cause it
yeah,
was-
the golf cart barn that
Yeah, it's falling
is
in.
still under construction, I believe. Excuse me. So, well, this is something that we need to
Yes.
put on the list.
And Public Works is working on that. We've received a report, and we've asked for another report, haven't we, at the next meeting?
Yes,
So-
sir, you're exactly right. That is correct. And we plan on getting another report in February, and we'll relay that to the board again. We may even have an answer sooner than that, but that is our scheduled day of, our scheduled month, at the end of the month in February. So I'll be able to tell you and the board at that time where we are with it, because it is important. Our maintenance shed is very important.
Thank you all for looking into that.
Yes.
And Andy, thank you for that preliminary report last night.
And again, Chairman Dixon, this is another budgetary matter that indicates our infrastructure, our buildings are aging to the point of dilapidation and danger. And I just don't see going forward with this repair and others that we're going to have to be making. It's going to really strain our budget. That's why we need to be considering other options. Just my thought on that. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. You got the next one too, I guess. Pickleball.
I can.
Okay.
You want me to talk about pickleball? We're currently kind of evaluating some alternative options based on the bid we got back for the location at the senior center. I think we still have $530,000 left in the project account. You can see that the estimate we got for, I think, 4 courts with lights and fences was around $1 million. We've kind of gone back to the drawing board and have kicked around some options inside City Hall and met with some people outside City Hall looking at temporary options or maybe kind of semi-permanent options. I don't know. We've got a couple of estimates on the table to perhaps utilize the old asphalt space beside Mary's Magical Place that we all know does flood from time to time, but that may be our best option short term to get people playing pickleball in a good location for like 1/10 of that cost. That's 1.1 million. We might could put 6 courts there or very close to that number.
Good.
Maybe.
I like that.
I mean, we'll have to just, a lot of that will be determined by what the mayor recommends, obviously, and bring you all something to, I think it'd be something that we would need the board's blessing to construct
Yes.
that facility there where we know it does flood. You know, I'm willing to clean it off if we can get people playing pickleball. We would just have to understand that if we lost a fence or nets or
It's on
benches,
us.
it'd probably be us. We'd be basically self-insured probably.
Good. Okay. Good report. Question? Alderman Peterson?
I always have questions. Now, I know we can't build in a floodplain, but can you put in a pickleball court?
I think we can resurface a surface that's already there. I don't
Okay.
want to speak for Sarah, but I think we'd be okay to do that.
Well, that certainly makes sense to me, you know, from looking at the budget, and I appreciate you always looking outside of the box on how to go around things and save the city money. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, just for speaking from myself, I could not support looking at the budget and the other needs like the parks building that we need, I couldn't support. So I'm glad the staff is looking at other alternatives. So, all right. Next item is rugby. You got that one too?
I can.
Okay.
Thanks to Stephen, outstanding job he did on the rugby restroom and concession building. It's complete. We have the keys. It's our building. We've used it one weekend already. There are a few items that we were able to, we're going to be able to kind of do more than just the project, get an AED machine, create a space for an outdoor grill, security cameras there. That's going to be good. So we are actually running internet to the building. They're supposed to be working on that this week. The IT department very helpful with that project. Comcast is running the cable for free. We'll just have to pay the monthly bill. So that was a good win. And that will help us be able to run credit cards and have security cameras at the building and the complex. But great job by Steve and Sarah, the Public Works team, and you know, the rugby folks and the Civitan folks that will be running the concession stand are paying a pretty good chunk to put freezers and grills and things inside of it. So it's a good project, and it turned out great.
Yeah. Alderman Peterson.
Yeah, Andy, can we run live barn while we're doing all of that?
That would be a separate agreement. I think once we see how this works at the hockey complex with the live stream, with Live Barn, I'm pretty sure other sports are going to want to tap into that. Having internet there will help that.
Right, considering these leagues that are coming to our rugby facility from out of state, college teams, and the type of competition that we're getting, rugby and lacrosse as well. I just think that live stream would be perfect.
I think I think if it works like we think it'll work, I think that's good. Other good thing here, you'll be seeing flag football out there 3 to 4 days a week. They actually will probably use it more than rugby this coming spring, depending on the weather.
I know that's a growing sport, and we just don't have the fields for all of them, but I'm glad that they can utilize the rugby fields.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And in anticipation of the activities that's going to be used on these fields, BOMA has acted, I think, wisely in the roundabout, which will help with traffic to those fields, and also the New Shackle, Old Drakes Creek that's in the county. We've helped fund that, so that's going to help on both ends of traffic coming in and out that park. So I have to ask the question, our original estimate was $150,000?
That was originally given to us by one of our local sports groups who hoped to build it themselves.
All right, that wasn't our number.
No, sir.
Okay.
When it became our project, we got, and you know, credit to them for trying. It just became apparent that was not going to be the way to build a long, substantial project.
And how much of that, if you can recall, maybe Stephen can answer this, was utilities? I mean, didn't we have to run water and power and sewer back there? I mean, wasn't that a pretty good chunk of, Stephen, of the $678,000 of that? Just trying to put it in perspective.
Yes. I don't have the breakdown here on my sheet, but I want to say it was on the order of like $120,000.
Yeah, it's over $100,000.
Yeah, it is just for utilities,
Just
if
for
I recall.
utilities.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, excellent. All right.
And a quick note regarding the LPRF project, we were able to tie in the walkway out at the rugby field to the ADA parking. So there will be access all the way from that parking area to the bathroom that's ADA compliant. And those bathrooms are ADA compliant as well.
Good.
So just a good note
Yeah.
that the two projects were able to work out together.
Perfect. Great. Thank you. Yeah, and I want to mention Alderman, my colleague Alderman Waters is here observing, so I just wanted to acknowledge you being here. And Rachel Collins from Ward 5 as well. So Ward 6 and 5 are well represented. Thank you. Okay, Sarah, we are moving on. We have 20 minutes.
Okay, we do not have a slide for it since this is a county project, but the Old Drakes Creek Road at New Shackle Island project is in the NEPA stage. I've got received confirmation from their county engineer, Marshall Boyd, that they're working through local programs, and it's in the environmental preliminary engineering phase.
Have they started to acquire right-of-ways yet?
They don't have their design yet. They'll have to complete NEPA, the environmental, and the preliminary design. They do that all at the same time. And then they'll be at the same point we are with our second light synchronization
Oh,
project.
don't say that. Don't
To
say that.
request notice to proceed to design.
Okay.
And then they'll have to go through that phase and then right of way.
So do you keep in touch, because this is an important intersection for a lot of our citizens and children going to beach, high school. So are you keeping in touch periodically, or do you have someone keeping in touch with the county?
Yes, periodically, yes.
To let them know of our interest in nudging
Yes.
them along?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
all right. Questions?
I do. What is the city portion, or is there on this?
I believe the city agreed to split the 20%. Is that right? The city paid 10%
Yeah, 220,000.
of the project?
About
Yes.
220
I
is
believe that's right.
what I recall.
That sounds right. Yes.
And
So
is that coming from Durham Farms impact fees and the, do you know?
I do not remember offhand how that was funded. I'm sorry.
Okay.
And that's right next to the White House Utility District, correct? Are they chipping in to help this project? Because I know they would benefit from it as well.
I had a conversation with them, and they were very eager to help out. And we've got a good relationship with them on many, many projects, including other fire halls and parks projects, and they've always been helpful.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, next is future traffic improvements.
So as we discussed at our last meeting in June, these were some of the projects we shared that we are evaluating for future projects. We have Sanders Ferry Road improvements, Forest Retreat interchange. We'll need to make some improvements when they come through with the Vietnam veterans widening and add that interchange there. Stop 30 improvements, Drakes Creek improvements, and then traffic circulation spot improvements. We would estimate between $2 to $3 million each, which example of those would be a potential for a roundabout at Wessington and Old Shackle, or a roundabout at Imperial and Rockland Road, a roundabout at Saundersville Road, at Innsbrook and I can't think of that other cross street, but it's for Stonecrest. Myrtlewood, thank you. So those are some examples of some spot improvements, or adding additional right turn lanes to mitigate the impacts of turning traffic on the flow, things like that. Keith, our planning director, and myself, and we'll be meeting with staff, and we're going to be working up similar to a capital improvement plan, basically, with these projects and estimates and some exhibits of what we think would be what we would need to be looking at for the future to ensure that we have appropriate capacity to manage traffic flows and keep people moving.
Okay, since we have a number of the wards represented here, would y'all like to comment on maybe some spot improvements that are needed in your wards that you would like the staff to look at? The Sanders improvement, Sanders Ferry improvement, is that starts at Main Street and goes all the way to
Potentially, that's what we would be looking
to the
at.
park access, maybe to the park access?
Yes, and maybe some of it would be full widening, and maybe portions of that would just be adding turn lanes or, adding shoulders, things like that.
Would that include turn improvements off of Main Street onto Sanders Ferry Road? Because a lot of times traffic backs up,
Yeah.
On Main Street trying to turn left onto Sanders Ferry Road. Have y'all experienced that? Yeah.
I think that we would need to look at that at the same time. That would that would increase the estimated cost for that, because we would be widening a bridge on state right-of-way. So that would, definitely add to the scope, but I agree that that should be looked at the same time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alderman Peterson.
Mayor, please tell me Saunders Ferry is a state road?
I don't know what road you're talking about because you mispronounced it.
From the historian.
Sanders Ferry is not a state road. We have 3 state roads, and that's Gallatin Road, Vietnam Veterans Boulevard, and New Shackle Island.
Well, Sanders Ferry is in Ward 2 and
And one.
and it's always been on the top of my list.
Yes.
And I don't know where we get $20 million, but it's something that we need to prepare for. It's one of the most traveled roads, I think, in the city, one of probably the most dangerous. It needs a lot of improvement, so.
Some of what we did last night with Westbrook, create some options for traffic, which should help. The more traffic we can put onto Imperial Boulevard, the better, because that flows better than the intersections at Walton Ferry and Gallatin Road and Sanders Ferry at Gallatin Road. And so that will help. And some of those changes we made as people redevelop there, or as people develop by right there, we're helping them push traffic to where it can be most accommodated.
Okay. I just want citizens to be aware that this is something that I know our dear friend Pat Campbell, he loved Ward 2 and was passionate about seeing Sanders Ferry Road fixed properly.
Thank you for coming to the dark side.
Yes. So anyway, I just want, you asked for roads.
I do.
I can't think of another more important road to get our attention.
But for sure, under our existing revenues, in my estimation, I don't think we can do any of them. That's just my opinion. I don't, under our existing revenues and our existing fixed cost, I don't think we can do any of these projects. Not, no, everybody's got their own opinion, but money doesn't grow on trees, so. Alderman Collins, you wanted to mention, would you come up so that you can be heard? Oh, yeah, and Alderman Bergdorf is in the audience with us, observing. So I'm announcing all the aldermen that are here for the record.
Saundersville Road, if I pronounce that properly.
That one's correct. That one's easy.
North of the bypass, in the area where Windcrest neighborhood and the industrial area, Laverne's and Avondale, that area is super congested, and I don't anticipate that even with the Exit 8 being changed, that is going to have a significant improvement or enough of an improvement. And the neighborhoods north of the bypass on Saundersville Road, many of them, the line of sight out when you're leaving the neighborhood, I think that Sarah would tell you that they're adequate when you measure them, but I think if you drive them and you have the experience of people driving too fast, which is the speed limit is not really adhered to on Saundersville Road, it can be kind of scary to pull out onto Saundersville Road from almost every main entrance or exit in this case, from all of the neighborhoods, every single one of them. So I think that now that we have Exit 8 kind of mostly settled, looking at north of the bypass, the entirety of Saundersville Road that is within the city would be something, a discussion we need to have.
So are you making a note of these, Sarah, that have been mentioned?
I think you're already aware of
Okay.
them. And I know that we have a plan to add a turning lane off of Avondale, but it hasn't come to fruition, so.
Thank you. Alderman Skidmore.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have two issues that I know that Alderman Bergdorf and I have been either called or have been emailed about. And one, Sarah, I'm sure you already know, or you have heard of this already. It's the stop sign at Rockland Road and Imperial Boulevard, right across from the post office and the bank, and there's a gas station right there on the left.
Yes.
One of the problems that Alderman Bergdorf and myself have had problems with is the fact that the more Rockland Road is used with the Walton Ferry Peninsula at the high volumes for going to work, whether it be in the morning or the afternoon traffic, it's really getting hard to pull out onto Imperial Boulevard. So if we could take a look at that, a remedy. I know that, I think we've been talked about, forgive me, but a roundabout over there by that whole, I guess it's the old grocery store area. I don't know what the name of that company.
C2 volleyball.
Yeah, it's the Church of Christ area right in there, where we could maybe do something there. But if we could look to see, either that or a red light. I know that we do not want a red light, but if that's the answer, because it's getting to the point, because more people are using Rockland out of, I guess, of the new Ward 1 as well, or just the Walton Ferry Peninsula, as well as the Saundersville side, or not Saundersville Road, but Sanders Ferry Road. People are going through there and then cutting across, going a crossway there off of Walton Ferry Road. And then there was one other, as chairman of Public Works, I get contacted all over with problems in the city, and so I'm going to give you a kudos onto Ward 3 out there. There's also a possibility that's coming in the future. It's that stop of Evergreen Circle and Volunteer Drive. You know what I'm talking about? There might be the necessity of it's getting to the point of doing a traffic count for a red light there. Because it's really, I've driven all over the city because I get calls from everywhere. And I've been out there to look, and sometimes it takes a while to get even on to the New Shackle from Evergreen and Volunteer. Yeah, we could do a roundabout. Oh no, that's the last of the roundabout I want to talk about tonight. But anyway, some people just pull out onto New Shackle and go down to Savely and turn to go across to Old Shackle. So in that district, in that ward rather, you might want to consider that and take a look at that. Bob, y'all might already know about it and it has already been looked at, but I wanted to let them know that that's the case.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That one has been checked twice for a traffic signal warrant, and it has not warranted. And since New Shackle's a state route, they've done the warrants, and they will not approve a signal there right now.
Well, thank you for telling me that because I did not know, since it's not really in my purview.
Right.
I'll let the couple of people that asked me about it, let them know what the deal is, so it does not constitute.
I would also like to add to this New Shackle Island from Glenbrook to at least stop 30. That with that car wash there now, and the traffic every day backs up almost to the interstate. I would like to put this on the list of all Capital Projects Committee, this future traffic improvements, so that we can constantly be looking at what our needs are and we can be considering them as we move forward in the budget. So thank you for putting this together. Any other, and Alderman Garza also is here, he came, and Alderman Martin is also with us today. So thank you for that. Now, planning for concurrent projects.
Yes, this is just, as we have these projects coming up that are going to be going to construction, hopefully, in the near future, one thing that we have been looking at and will continue to be considering, just as these continue to move forward, is projects going to construction concurrently and what impacts those may have on our residents as far as traffic circulation, and working to plan the sequence of those as best we can, the traffic handling, things like that, to mitigate the impacts as much as we can.
Good. Good. Very good. Anything else on your list? I think we've talked you to death.
That's all I've got.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Alderman Peterson?
Sarah, I just want to thank you and Public Works for
Yes.
clearing the roads and prepping for snow and plowing and, doing a phenomenal job. But I know we couldn't get to every street, and I know that you have to have a certain degree for the salt to work, and it was just very cold. And anyway, but I thought I saw plow trucks out and the city doing a phenomenal job. Not everybody was happy, but you can't control the temperature. But I do want to thank you all and your team for doing as much as you did.
Yeah, and one last comment. I love the part in the movie The Godfather when Michael says he needs more lawyers. What we need are more engineers. So what's the status on Public Works open position, engineering positions?
We have no applicants still for our traffic engineering role. And the project manager role, we've gone through two rounds of interviews now, and that we have not landed on a successful candidate yet.
Is money the problem?
It was for one of the candidates, yes.
Money's a problem.
Yes.
Our salaries are not competitive with the private sector or with, yeah.
Potentially.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Sarah. Again, at this time, we've added an item on the agenda. I've asked the mayor if he would give us a report on the legislative consultant that the city has hired to try to help us along these projects. I don't really like to call it a lobbyist because I think it's more a consultant. So let's call it a consultant.
So I have 3 minutes and 45 seconds. I think I can complete my assignment by
Go
then.
ahead.
So his main responsibility is Exit 8. The way I look at Exit 8 is the sooner we get to each phase, the less likely there will be a change. You can't change the process for a road that's already been built. And so, and it's harder to change if it's been engineered or if the right-of-way has been purchased. So the faster we can move, the less likely it is that we're going to see a change over the next couple of years. Part of the reason that I have a concern for that is that the state of Tennessee was collected $1.9 billion less money in December than it did December 2022.
Say that again.
$1.9 billion less in December 2023 versus December 2022. So just like us, as we look at our revenue, as it has not been performing as we had hoped, we start thinking about what we have to cut. The state of Tennessee is going to have to do the same thing. So the more the reason to move it forward. So what Mr. Dunn has done for us in his company is they continue to interact with our state delegation, but even more importantly, his background and his relationship with Butch Ely, the Commissioner of Transportation, is incredibly helpful. We have a meeting coming up with them February 12th, I believe it is, and I'm just going to continue to be the squeaky wheel on this and make them understand, and I think they do, that this is one of several projects that they had listed, but to us it is the most important project, and James is helping making sure that our state delegation and TDOT understands that it is a very important project to us, and that putting it off any longer is not an option. In fact, we want it sped up.
Any other projects that he'll be working on?
Sure, traffic signal synchronization. He's keeping our delegation informed of the delays that we're having. Honestly, sometimes I feel like I am pestering our delegation a little bit too much and not sure if I'm always being effective. He understands the relationships between TDOT and the state delegation better than I do, and which employees in TDOT really could have some authority over pushing other employees along to make sure that what needs to get done gets done. I've sort of become the bad cop. Everybody else is sort of the good cop. So
Yeah.
it's good to have him.
Does he have a relationship with the commissioner of TDOT?
Yes, that's Butch Ely.
Okay.
So yes, and they go back a little ways. And he also deals with Exit 8. He lives just outside of Hendersonville, and uses Vietnam Veterans Boulevard right there. So, yeah. If you want me to, in 45, I can give you a little bit more information on what he's working on outside capital projects.
Sure.
Okay. He is working on our request to be able to register companies that own rental homes. He's also working on a request to exempt groceries from our sales tax. He is also helping us resolve the city-county conflict on the reappraisal cost. The state comptroller has written a bill he is supporting a bill that would fall in line with what the counties want to charge us for reappraisals. We think that it should be different. We think that it should be at least scaled to what we get from those reappraisals. So he's working.
The comptroller
The comptroller put that bill together.
has put a bill in that would require us to pay the disputed amount to the county for tax appraisals.
Yes.
And that's amount, how much?
That'd be roughly 50%. And so so the money that we have in the bank right now, all of it would go to the county, and they would continue to charge us between $180,000 to $200,000
$180,000 a year?
a year.
180 additional cost
Yes.
to the city.
Yes. It's hard to oppose a bill that the comptroller is supporting. However, there are many more cities than there are counties.
So is the municipal league opposing this?
We'd think so. That's something that James is working with.
Okay.
And unfortunately, the municipal league very often has difference between the bigger cities and smaller cities, but this is one where all the cities would be opposed to this formula. So, a couple other items. He continues to track legislation that pops up occasionally. I'll give you an example. Recently a bill was filed that would change the restrictions on the city's bid process. We made sure he understood. He explained that to us, and we're fine with it. But occasionally bills pop up that none of us in City Hall have the time to follow. But he let us know about that one, and continues to let us know about bills that might impact us. He is also, that's it. I appreciate that.
And his contract is for 6 months?
No, for 4 months.
4 months?
4 months, yes. One other thing, you asked about the right-of-way phases of projects. I am going to ask him, James Dunn, to see if he can speed those up. That might require state legislation. We don't get to handle the right-of-way phase. That's handled by, in many of our projects, a state and then a third party, and there are some restrictions on how that's handled, and it makes it cumbersome. I'm also going to ask him, can we speed up the time that it's allowed for utility relocation in some of these projects? It's not something that can be done overnight, but is there some legislation that we could support that would help with that? And he can point us that direction.
Good luck with that. Utilities
I
have
know.
a pretty strong lobby.
Speaking as somebody who used to deal with that pretty strong lobby.
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor. Alderman Peterson.
Yes, thank you. I know we're ready for pizza, but I have one quick question, and Mayor, this is for you, and it's not about Bradford Berry House.
Okay. Deer, snow?
No, it's about the NES LED lighting.
Okay.
Is that something that's still in the works, or does that need to be discussed now?
Not right now. What we need to do is we need to go forward with the LED lighting grant that we have first, and that will give us an idea of really what we need to, what else remains, and it gives us an idea of what works and what will work best.
Because I think you got a committee for that, correct?
We did, and they have made their recommendation, and once we have, so it's two phases. We have a grant to do some parts of West Main Street, and then we need to do the rest of the lights that the city owns, and so that's when we're going to look at the recommendation from that committee.
Very good.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you, Mayor. Thank you.
Alderman Bergdorf, did you want to give something on Barry, or next time? Okay. In closing, we see these needs. We know we don't have the money for them, but we need them. A moment of personal privilege, I guess, here. If you feel that the referendum would help us to fund these projects and you support that, I hope that you would consider, as an alderman, taking a leadership position and maybe issuing a letter to the editor or something to indicate that here's the need of the city and we can't do it without some additional revenues. So with that, I'll adjourn. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn and second. Thank you. All those in favor to adjourn? Aye. All right. Pepperoni pizza. Where is it?